can they, and the right answer is 14 days. But some states say you can get a test in 72 hours if you find you can enter the state and be around people. Well, disease, if you contract it while you're traveling, you can still have symptoms up to 14 days. Just because you have a negative test before entering that particular state doesn't emit that. So a couple of the things I'm going to touch about host. Inform your host. Do not travel, or your guests. Do not travel if you have symptoms. Stay where you're at. Encourage people if they come together, make sure they get a flu shot. And I think the last part is, yeah, I would just, you know, do as much as you can outdoors. Stay away from people that you don't really know. Don't invite anybody to your house that you are not already friends with. 6 feet distance, mask at all times, which you can except when you're eating. And then, you know, be careful on how long you're around somebody. So the longer time period that you're around somebody, and if they're COVID positive, the more likely you could contract the disease from them. And so it's up to 15 minutes cumulative now, instead of before we said 15 minutes. Now it's more cumulative. But I would just tell you from what I've seen, the disease, you can contract it within 5 minutes or 15 minutes. It depends on how much that person is infectious at that particular time. And the problem is, one more thing, I would try to do everything low risk in terms of activities as much as possible. So if you're unclear about it, or there's some gray area, I would just use common sense and don't do it and side on the air of caution. And so I will stop there and entertain any questions anybody might have.
Sure. Do any of our, we'll wait for audience questions later, but do any of our panelists have questions for Dr. Jett about safe celebration at the holidays? If you do, I invite you to raise your hand and I can unmute you. I know, Dr. Jett, one of my questions is this idea of pods, and people who live alone often have chosen other members of their community who might also live alone to spend Thanksgiving with them. And one of the things we've been hearing a lot is you shouldn't have Thanksgiving with someone who's not in your household. But for many people, their household is just them. Do you have any thoughts on the idea of people choosing, 1 or 2 safe people and considering that their household for the purposes of the pandemic, even if they don't live together?
This is a tricky question. What you're trusting is somebody else's habits. And so that's why I say, friends and family, but you have to really know the individual's habits. What you're not hearing in the news is that there are people dying of all ages. And we don't have a real idea of the conditions of the individuals, unless, besides, people that died from nursing home. We probably have more information about that. But the information about people actually dying in a hospital, we don't have that information. And there have been people from 0 to 4. We have cases of death all the way up to 80 plus. And a lot of times people have contracted it from somebody. I would say most of the time, when it's cold, it's probably in your house. And it's close contact with somebody that either didn't wear a mask or didn't practice safe social distancing, or less about hand washing, more about social distancing and mask wearing. So you have to trust that whoever you bring it around you will not give you COVID. And everybody's body is different. and their susceptibility is different. So you have to weigh the risk. Is it really worth it?
Thank you. And I think that that's, you speak to a lot of what we've all been wrestling with in terms of risk benefit. And, I think the takeaway I'm getting from everything is that you should err on the side of caution and just make sure that you're really aware of the risk profile of, yourself and your family, and really try to keep things small. So thank you so much, Dr. Jett. It was a pleasure to have you kick us off with this wonderful information. And now we will continue.
Thank you. Everybody have a good day.
Thank you. I'm just going to get my slideshow started up again. So here's our challenge: creating a safe, happy, healthy holiday season. It won't be easy, but it won't be perfect, but it's what we need to do as people to figure out how to keep things going, and use our creativity to forge these loving connections while following state and local health guidelines. And coping at the holidays is not anything new. Holidays can be a challenge any year. Financial strain, heightened emotions, memories of lost loved ones, pressure to be perfect, struggles with social isolation. Really, everyone to a certain extent has some stresses at holidays and some strategies that they use to cope. And so strategies that you've used in the past can still be helpful now, even in this sort of strange situation. I think, as we're going forward in my role as a social worker, I think a lot of what we've dealt with since March is a sense of loss and acknowledging that there are losses, even if your life has not been greatly adversely affected. We all have this disruption of routine, disconnection from community, not just grief and mourning of people who've died from COVID, but all of our rituals of grief and mourning for people we've lost in the last 9 months have been disrupted. So, if someone you love passed away, you wouldn't have been able to have a funeral in the way that you would have otherwise. You can't sit Shiva all together. There have been really these particular factors that have changed the way we're able to process loss this year. And we're also coming into these holidays where some COVID survivors are having ongoing effects, and people are really uncertain about what happens in this time between now and a return to normalcy. So I just wanted to really normalize and acknowledge that many of us are coming into these holidays with these losses on board. But I think, as I said, our goal, our challenge is to find ways of making meaning and ways of continuing to feel the joy of the season and of life, even amidst this loss. Now, one of the ways that we can really sort of feel that positivity is realizing how resilient our community has been in the face of COVID. Brookline Community Aging Network has had a lot of great online programs. We still have so much help, both in mental health and in fulfillment of Brookline residents' basic needs from the Brookline Center for Community Mental Health. The Brookline Food Pantry has been absolutely heroic in the last 9 months, since many more people have been experiencing food insecurity due to job loss and other COVID-related issues. aided by mutual aid Brookline, which started as a way to get people their groceries and now has been crowdfunding and bringing books from the library to people at home, and really become a beating heart of our community in a really rapid way. We've got spiritual communities. Our teachers in schools have been so resilient. And, you know, if I sat here and listed all of the wonderful things that are happening in Brookline, I would be here all day. You know, I think the Elks Thanksgiving is continuing. First Parish is doing their Thanksgiving meals by delivery. We're all figuring it out, and I think that's really wonderful. I just want to take this moment to particularly plug the Family Dinner Project. It's an initiative at Mass General, and it's got recipes and conversation ideas and stress management strategies. And they have a virtual dinner party guide and Thanksgiving ideas to really help us to find ways of making meaning and maintaining our own mental health during this time. There will be all of these slides will be available on the websites of Brookline Can and the Senior Center, and you will be able to get access to these links in the future. Now I'm going to put it over to Britta, and she can tell us about what the library has been doing and what resources they have available at this time.
Thank you, Kate. So I'm just going to run through a few options for you here. The library is here for your information needs and also for your entertainment. So we have librarians available to you by phone. A lot of people don't realize this, but we are here for you from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m., Monday through Thursday, and from 9 to 5 on Friday and Saturday. You can call us to request your items, your books, your movies, your CDs, your audiobooks. You can call us if you have a question and you don't have access to the internet to be able to answer it. We'd be happy to help you with that as well. We love your questions. We love if you want to call and ask us, what book should I read next? Or do you have a movie with Tom Hanks in it? Any question you can come up with, we are happy to field. Once you have requested a book or a movie, we are open for pickup on a walk-up service basis. So you don't come inside the library, but you come and give us your name, and the staff goes inside for you and retrieves your item. So our hours for that are varied by location. If you check our website, you can get the most up-to-date hours for that service. As Kate mentioned a moment ago, if you can't make it to the library, the other way of getting your requested items is via mutual aid Brookline. They've been a great partner to us in this time. As you know, because you are at this program now, the library's programs are continuing on a remote basis as well. So we have our book groups that normally run, they're still running, and people are seeing each other just the way they would have seen in the building. I want to highlight one particular program that we have coming up right in the thick of the holidays, which is an introduction to Jewish genealogy. And that is scheduled for December 21st. You can find that information and information on all our other events online. And of course, we do have ebooks and streaming media. You can find music, movies, audiobooks, and whatever you like to listen to or watch. Those are all available again through our website. If you need some help getting started on any of those, you can give us a call. And one final note is, as of the last couple of weeks, we are now lending out Chromebooks. So if you need access to a computer from home, you can take a laptop out from the library, just like you would take out a book, and you can keep it for 2 weeks and use it however you like, and then bring it back to us. So that fills the list of library resources for the moment. Thanks, Kate.
Wonderful. And, you know, from a mental health standpoint, really continuing to learn and enjoy art and connect. I think we've all really been reminded of the importance of those things during this time, and what would we do without the library? So now I'm going to speak about some Council on Aging resources. We give our services for all Brookline residents age 60 and older. There is that residency requirement for our social services, for things like online programming to watch, or if we have an entertainer or anything like that, that doesn't have any residency requirement. But our mandate is primarily to serve anyone in Brookline age 60 and over, regardless of financial status, of any race, gender, ethnicity, immigration status. If you are 60 and older and you're in Brookline, we are here for you. We have been, for the past several weeks, doing grab and go lunches from Springwell, which is our area agency on aging. And that's on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. If you are a senior and you would like to have our grab and go meals, sometimes it's just even picking it up as an opportunity to have a friendly hello with those of us who are passing them out. And it's always good to have some extra meals to eat and put in the freezer. Call 617-730-2747 to sign up for that. Many of our social and educational groups, as I've said, are meeting remotely. I think we have a really strong and ongoing crop of great Zoom users, and we're learning more every day. One of the wonderful uses of Zoom is we have had, since almost the very beginning, COVID safe fitness options. So if you want to find out more about how the Senior Center Fitness Center is offering ways to stay in shape even during pandemic time, please give us a call. For Brookline residents of all ages, we are offering help with ABCD fuel assistance, and that if you live in Brookline and you would like to get some fuel assistance, please do let me know, or give us a call rather. And Monday through Friday, we have during the day a social worker of the day to answer practical questions and provide emotional support. Anything from I need a tub chair to I need a new place to live to I've been feeling a lot of anxiety. We really do have a wonderful mandate that lets us be involved in so many parts of your lives. So all you need to do is call. Everything is available at this one phone number, well, two, 617-730-2770. We don't have people immediately answering the phones in that moment, but if you leave a voicemail, we will give you a call back. We strive to do it in the same day, but if not, as soon as possible. So we haven't stopped being here, and we don't want to stop being here for you in this time. So that's what we've got going on at the Council on Aging. And now, here's the best part. I would like to introduce our Living with COVID-19 panel. We have a couple of folks on the panel who were unable to make it today. After I read their names, I will close down this PowerPoint and you can see their lovely faces. Today we have with us B. Mikulecki, Fran Perler, Betsy Pollock, John C., and Ruth Seidman, and they are our Living with COVID-19 panel, and I would like to heartily thank them for joining us for this. And I'm going to just have everyone introduce themselves really quick. So I'm going to start with B. I'm going to unmute you, and if you could just introduce yourself, just say something brief about you. We still need you to unmute.
There we go. Okay. I'm Bea Mikulecki. I'm a retired educator. I live in Coolidge Corner alone in a large condo building. And I hope we can provide some interesting ideas for all of you about how to deal with COVID.
Thank you. Now going in alphabetical order. Betsy, I would love to have you introduce yourself to us.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Betsy Pollock, and I am a professional social worker in LICSW, recently retired, and I am president of the Brookline Senior Center, which I have been for over 30 years. So I know a lot about what goes on there, and I'm very excited to advocate for the seniors in our community. And I am widowed and live alone, and with my newly rescued adopted dog. So I look forward to telling you about how I deal with the holidays, and hope that you'll get some good ideas from me and from the rest of the panel.
Thank you. Next up, Fran, could you introduce yourself to our viewing audience?
I'm Fran Perler. I'm a retired research scientist. I live in a two-family house in Coolidge Corner, and looking forward to talking with everyone.
Wonderful. John, you're next up.
Hi, I'm John C. I'm a retired computer professional, worked for IBM and Lotus. I'm currently the webmaster as well as the treasurer of Brookline CAN. I also live by myself in a 34-unit condo in also near Coolidge Corner.
Thanks, John. Now, last but not least, Ruth Seidman.
Hello, I'm Ruth Seidman. I'm a retired librarian. I was a library manager in science and technology libraries. I'm in Brookline, the Washington Square area, and I'm an active member of the Brookline Community Aging Network.
Excellent. Welcome. So I actually think I'm going to throw it right over to Britta, because she has the question of the day, I think. We can start off, while acknowledging all the challenges, start off from sort of a place of levity.
All right, so my question for the panel, there are a lot of things that are happening that are different this year. Is there an aspect of this holiday season that's different because of COVID that you will not miss?
I'm not sure how what order you want to do this with in Britta, but I'll start. I will not be visiting relatives this year, and that's disappointing to me. But one thing I won't miss is my brother's dog. Don't get me wrong, I love dogs, but not this dog. This dog bites me. Drawn blood once and tried to bite through my clothing several times. And so while I'm there, we have to keep the dog on a leash, which nobody likes, and it's uncomfortable.
I think that's a reasonable thing. Betsy.
I will not miss the enormous pile of dishes. I like to cook, but having nobody to help clean up and having so many dishes because of many people to prepare for, I won't miss that.
B, what won't you miss?
My family, every single person in my family has different dietary requirements. Some of them are vegan, some of them are vegetarian, some of them don't eat any sugar or any milk. And trying to make a meal with that group is really challenging, and I'm not going to miss that at all.
I hear you. Anyone else? What won't you miss, Fran?
I won't miss the 8-hour commute to my family in New York that should take 3.5 hours.
And Ruth, do you have anything? What won't you miss?
Well, I don't have to worry about what I'm going to wear on New Year's Eve.
Very good. I love it. So we've been in this situation since mid-March. So, many of us have already experienced celebrating major holidays under COVID-19 restraints. What have you learned? Betsy.
Well, I think what I've learned is that no matter how you decide to celebrate, it's important, especially if you live alone, to kind of keep to a routine in your life so that you still get up at the same time of day you always do. You make sure you eat regularly. And I think one of the things and basically keep up a pretty similar schedule to your regular life. And then one of the things that's really makes a difference is to be in contact with people that you care about. And even if you're not someone who usually picks up the phone and calls, I think it's really good to get yourself to pick up the phone and make calls to people and really talk to the people that you care about, even if you haven't spoken with them in a while. And it makes a big difference, and it gives you something to think about, what to say, and then afterwards what they've said, and it keeps you connected. And I think that being connected is the key to making it through holidays and feeling good about it.
Fran. Thank you, Betsy. Fran, you're still muted.
Sorry, my mouse wasn't working. So for me, what I've learned is you need to be proactive. Initially, I was going out and taking walks and birding and stuff in nature, and then talked to my friends and realized that everyone was sort of feeling the blahs. And rather than just go with the flow, I decided to look at what I could do, not what I couldn't do. And I realized I have this big front porch and a big backyard for Coolidge Corner. And so I had a weekly porch fest where my friends could come on the porch, and some did jigsaw puzzles, some just sat around and chatted, and everyone just really appreciated the ability to communicate face to face or mask to mask in a safe environment. And we're trying to figure out how to do that now that it's getting a little cooler. But I really think that we need to think about what we can do and how we can adapt the new norms to things that allow us to be engaged.
That actually sort of brings me to a couple of intertwined questions. Fran, what you're talking about is such a lovely new social thing that didn't exist in your friend group before COVID. So my two parts are, how are you adapting your annual traditions to the current situation? And then also, I think that we've all gotten sort of surprises out of COVID quarantine in terms of new things that we've learned to do or new ways of connecting with people. So what pandemic innovations do you plan on keeping in your holiday celebrations, not just this year, but for years to come? John.
We had a group of my college friends have a dinner every year, and we couldn't have it this year. So we did it by Zoom, and everybody said, and we had people who never come to the dinner, mostly because they live on the West Coast and my college is on the East Coast. We had better attendance than we've ever had at the dinner. And we pretty much agreed that we'll go back to doing dinner in person because that's better. but we'll still do these Zoom meetings because they were fun.
That's great. Ruth, what are you bringing forward?
Well, I got to have a Seder with some family who are quite a few states away from here. And some year in the future, even if I do have an opportunity to travel, I might not want to travel that year, or it just might not be feasible. And I realized there certainly be possible to share that type of an activity, that type of a celebration with family or even friends at a distance.
All right, Betsy.
I want to say something to John, who just talked about his college friends. John, I have a group of college friends who two of whom I knew and four of whom I didn't. And we've now talk on the phone. We talk on a Zoom call every 2 weeks for an hour on Friday morning. And we've been processing together how life has changed and what we're doing and how we're dealing with holidays. And it's become a new group of people to feel close to that I didn't have in my life before. And at some point, I hope that we're all hoping that we'll be able to like see each other in person, but it's a new thing that we'll carry forward. And it's a development of new friendships, as well as a few friendships that had lapsed and have been one of them was my college roommate I hadn't heard from in 30 years, 40 years. So it's really been very significant to me, and I look forward to carrying it forward. So I know what you're talking about.
Betsy, that's so lovely. I think that's one of the things about this whole situation is that we can't hug the person who lives next door to us, but in a lot of ways that has really equalized our social relationships to really bring back people who are far away, or people who, for whatever reason, whether it's because they have very small children, or because they're caretaking for parents, or because they've traveled for work or retired closer to their children, who we weren't seeing. And I just personally think it's been really lovely. One of my coworkers has been in an 8 a.m. Zoom crossword puzzle group since the inception of lockdown, and then going forward. So I think that that's really really been lovely. Now, many of you live by yourselves. And I think we've already started to talk about that, but in this time of year that so emphasizes togetherness and personal connections, how have you, as folks who live alone, been maintaining personal connections and taking care of yourself? And I think that that's a topic. So many people live alone, and I think that that's an important topic for us to really broach on. All right, B, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
These iPads aren't as elegant as using a computer. One of the things that I stopped doing over the years is sending Christmas cards. But it seems to me that this year would be a good year, or Hanukkah cards, or whatever kind of cards. This would be a good year for everybody to send Christmas cards out to everybody they know. Because can you imagine how cheerful it will be to find them in your mail? So I've ordered a bunch of Christmas cards from UNICEF. And I've ordered a bunch of stamps from the post office, and we can get them sent to us. We don't have to even go out. And as soon as they arrive, I plan to start sending Christmas cards to everybody on my list. So I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for this COVID, I think.
Lovely. Who else? Fran?
So one of the things that, like everyone else, I discovered was Zoom holidays. And I did Passover internationally with 3 countries and several states. But regarding the coming holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas and Hanukkah, these are all foodie holidays. And one of the things that my friend is organizing is Zoom, besides Zoom Thanksgiving, is, well, I'm making my aunt so-and-so's stuffing, and I'll deliver a little bit to everyone who wants it. And somebody else is making something else. Somebody made homemade cranberry sauce and gave it out. And as a single person whose family doesn't live in this area, I think that's sort of a really fun way of doing it. So you get to have some of the delights of the holidays in a more safe way. And that would be fun if we could continue having people deliver goodies to my door.
That reminds me of an old book I read where some people had a dinner party that went from house to house to house. Only now it's not the people who are traveling, it's the food. Does anyone else have thoughts on maintaining connections as people who live alone? Betsy?
I was holding back because I know other people I want them to talk to, but I did buy one of those big restaurant heaters and had somebody come and help me set it up, which was very complicated. There were so many bolts and nuts and parts, and the friend was an architect. It took him 2 hours out in my backyard to set it up, and I thought, oh my goodness, I could never have done it myself. But it's set up, and I just to extend the daylight, the time to be able to be outside a little bit. I know it won't work when it's 30 out, but well, we have lots of days through the winter that it's 45 and 50, and I'm figuring I can have somebody come over and we can share a cup of tea or a glass of wine, and have them face to face or mask to mask in my backyard. So trying to extend the ability to connect with people. And then while I've got the mic, I make chocolates usually during for like New Year's and give them to people. And this year, instead of bringing them to parties, I will deliver them as per what you just said, Fran, and deliver smaller batches of those to different people that I know in the neighborhood. And then I walk. I put on all the gear and I'm out walking every day, largely because I have a dog to walk. But even before I got the dog, I walked by myself before work. So I go out and walk, and that's when you see people in your neighborhood and you can just say hello. And just being, from my social work background, I know that just saying hello, how are you? It's nice to see you, can change the nature of your day or that person's day. And just those small incidental interactions are very powerful in life. So I encourage you all, even when it's horrible out, pull on the boots, wrap up, put on lots of layers, and go out and take a walk.
That's lovely. And Betsy, I'm going to be pestering you for pictures of that dog. I didn't know you had a new dog, and I'm very excited. Actually, this brings me to what actually I was thinking as more of a closing question. But I think before we come up with some audience questions, I would love to ask everybody to say, where are you finding joy now? I think I'm finding joy in my full spectrum sun lamp, which I put beside my breakfast every morning to goose my body into thinking there's sunshine, and spending time with my cats, and not having to drive anywhere where the weather is bad. So where are you finding joy? John?
I'm not sure it's so much joy as occupying my time. I'm very fortunate in that the work that I did before I retired involved computers, and now I'm maintaining a website for Brookline Can, and it gives me something to do and people to interact with, like the people here, even though I can't do it face to face anymore.
B.
I'm glad John mentioned Brookline Can, because I wanted to say a little more about Brookline Can in general. That's one of the places I find some joy, because I'm on the communication committee, and every month we send out a newsletter about interesting things for people to know about and get involved in. And I write a couple of columns that you might be interested in. One of them is called Binging on Netflix. Every month I write a column and suggest a few really great series that you can binge on. And then I write a column on Book Talk, and I recommend books that people might enjoy. And so if you're looking for something to take up some of your time, look at our website or get a copy of our newsletter.
That's wonderful. Others, Ruth, what's bringing you joy?
Well, I find joy in music, and I can't go to live concerts, but there's still lots of ways of enjoying music at home, and I take advantage of as many of those as I can.
And Fran, what brings you joy these days?
Well, I have to say that with the cold weather, and I'm a birder and a photographer, that the absence of feathered friends makes it difficult. But I continually through the process have been finding projects to do. I decided to have a butterfly garden, so I went out in nature looking for seeds rather than just buying them. And I've been doing a lot of webinars and stuff. And so it's basically trying to find projects that will be fun things to do.
That sounds great. Oh, I'm gonna call on Betsy so we can get her on the screen to show us her dog.
Here's the joy for me. Somebody who was trying to bang down the door, and I had him outside the door. But yep, this is what's bringing me joy.
I think that's you're bringing other people joy too. I think that one of the signature things about COVID work from home is that everyone wants to get a glimpse of your cat, your dog, your baby. We just love, whoever thought, over the summer, one of my colleagues often would have both of her children attached to her body at different points while we were in meetings. And that brings life and levity in a way that I think is just really lovely. Britta, did you want to ask the audience question about Zoom?
So some of us are on Zoom right now. Some of us are watching on TV. So a bunch of the panelists have mentioned Zoom meetings or holidays. And question is, do you have any tips for making those work, either technology-wise or just in terms of making it feel more like a human connection?
John?
I think it takes a little more organization than if you think about a Thanksgiving dinner or a Christmas dinner, you sit around and conversation kind of flows without any effort. It doesn't work that way on Zoom. Somebody has to fill the role of a moderator to keep things going and to make people take turns and to draw out the people who aren't inclined to talk and to shut up the people who are too inclined to talk. So it takes a little bit more work, but it's not a lot of work. It's just some thought that you have to do beforehand that wouldn't happen in a face-to-face situation.
I think that is a microcosm. Britta, I hope you don't mind my putting you on the spot, but you spoke about a webinar that you had seen and talked about how people came up with what they thought was the key kernel, the core of what was important to them in their holiday experiences, and I think also in life experiences. Do you want to just say something real quick about that?
Yeah, well, you've kind of hit the nail on the head. The idea was there's so much that goes on in a normal holiday season. It can feel kind of frantic, and we can lose sight of what it is that's really meaningful about a holiday. And that this year is kind of giving us an opportunity to think through all the different aspects of our holiday celebrations and think about what is the kernel that is most meaningful and make that be the thing that you really try to preserve. Everything else may still fall into place somehow, but your energies are going towards the thing that you value most.
That's lovely. Ruth, what do you have to say?
Organize our high holiday observances in light of our current situation. And so some of the things we came up with, one is that you had to be, you couldn't spend as much time, that people get tired watching Zoom. And so we made things shorter. We made more variety. For instance, sometimes you could bring in something from YouTube, like if we had music from different parts of the world, because they're Jews who celebrated all over the world, and different kinds of music, different ways. So we occasionally brought in something short from other places, other times. Also using breakout groups. So if you had a talk and then you had a discussion afterwards, which you might do in real life in a room. So it's a little hard to do breakout groups if you have too many people on a Zoom call. So you could just break it up into groups of 5 or 4, however many people you wanted to do it. And that works out very well. That would work for other things too, besides religious observances. Just a few ideas.
I think that those are great. You know, we actually, if you can believe it, are drawing to the end of an hour. You know, we can take a few minutes to wrap up, but I would love to hear one of the, you know, if you have one piece of wisdom to impart that you have not done yet about how you are celebrating holidays during COVID, how you are continuing your lives, you know, how you're making meaning. I would love to hear some great last words from our panel. Let's go round robin. Betsy, how about you start? What's the one piece of wisdom that you want to pass on about the holidays?
Well, I think I've already said what's important to me. And really it is try to like reach out and talk to people that you care about, maintain your connections both in the community and in your relationships, and be kind to yourself. If you feel sad, then that's okay to feel sad, and then think, well, now what could I do that after that makes me feel good. So, you know, try to be kind to yourself and understand that you can't always feel happy. And sometimes you feel, you know, sad, and it doesn't, I think those of us who have been around a while know that we have experience in weathering difficult situations. And this is a bit of a difficult situation, and we will weather it, and it will get better.
So Ruth, I'm gonna have you unmuted. And Britta and I were wondering if anyone else is holding back from the audience. We have time for maybe one or two more audience questions, and Britta will be getting those out of the chat. So this is your moment while we're listening to Ruth impart her wisdom.
Well, I learned that I have the right to decide what I want to do, what I don't want to do, and not agree to something that I'm not going to feel comfortable with. And I think that's really important to give yourself the right to make those decisions.
Yeah, all of the boundaries we're all learning to articulate. Britta, any more questions from the audience?
Nope, we don't have any.
All right. John or Fran or B, I think I'm losing track, COVID brain. Any more final words of wisdom before we call it a day?
People very seldom ask me for wisdom. They usually want to know how to work their computer. But Ruth mentioned music, and last night, a cappella group that I like very much had a live broadcast of them singing from their homes. Two of them are married, but I think the four of them have moved in together for the duration, and they're doing music as best they can.
So one of the things I wanted to leave people with is I think we emotionally get down when we see things on Facebook and all these other sort of sites spiraling around. And as the resident scientist here, I would encourage people to look at more scientifically appropriate or town sources, because I've spent a lot of time in the COVID era of reassuring my friends that some of their irrational fears were baseless and giving them better ideas about how to deal more appropriately with the issues that are bothering them. And we heard from Dr. Jett, and there's a lot of resources online that are more medical and less, off the wall, shall I say. And so I encourage people to look at a variety of sources, and if they're really obsessing or fearing something, try to look at what people are saying about that and see if your fears are reasonable and if there are ways of dealing with it.
And I think that's a great plug again to call and speak with the wonderful librarians at the Public Library of Brookline. They are really our source for evaluating the quality of a source, for helping you find really good resources to tell the truth and find out how things are. Britta, do you want to give any last words from the library?
Just wanted to make sure you're still going to show people how to find the recording. Okay, so yes, I guess my urging of people would be to think right now about one or two friends or family members. Obviously doesn't have to be a Brookline person, even though we did go over some Brookline specific resources. But since we have recorded this program, think about someone you could share it with, and Kate's going to show you how.
So I've got up here our slide now. Watch this program again. Brookline Interactive Group has so graciously broadcast us live, and they will be re-airing on all of the Brookline Interactive Group cable channels. So if you tune to channel 3 or whatever it is on your television, tomorrow, November 24th at 2:30, Wednesday, November 25th at 2:30, and on Thanksgiving Day itself, November 26th, still at 2:30. And they will be also rerunning it intermittently throughout the holiday season. You can also find this program on the Public Library of Brookline YouTube channel, on the Brookline Interactive YouTube channel, and on the Brookline Community Aging Network website. So those are our details for sharing again. And hopefully we all found this a little bit of human interaction, a little bit of light and enjoyment for the holidays. Thank you, panelists, so much for your time and your thoughts and opinions. Again, if you need anything from the Brookline Council on Aging, our phone number is 617-730-2770. And everyone in the town from A to Z, we really just want to make this whole experience livable and wonderful, and give opportunities for community for the people of Brookline. So thank you so much for coming, and have a good holiday season, safe and healthy. Take care.